Safety for All, Part 2, Characteristics of Autism Spectrum Disorder. For a student to be identified with an autism spectrum disorder, they will have certain characteristics. The characteristics of all individuals who have an autism spectrum disorder are impairments in communication, including social language, and the presence of restricted and repetitive behaviors. Here we see several students. While each person will have these characteristics, how they look will vary from student to student. That is why we call it autism spectrum. In addition to these primary characteristics, the person with autism will likely have other traits too. We call these secondary characteristics. We call them secondary because they are not part of the formal definition of autism, but they are common in people who have this disability. On this slide, we see a child with his toys lined up, a man touching a soft texture, and a girl wincing while eating a particular kind of food. These are not defining features of autism, so not every individual with autism experiences these, but they are common. Students with autism will have challenges in the area of communication. They will have challenges in the areas of both expressive and receptive communication. Again, remember, it is a spectrum, so how the person communicates will look very differently from student to student. Some will be impacted a lot, while others will be impacted much less. On the left, you see a picture of a communication device that might be used by a nonverbal student with autism. On the right, you see a student talking verbally with a teacher. Both of these represent ways that many students with autism communicate. Social skills are part of the communication that individuals with autism also have difficulty with. People often think of sharing, turn-taking, and making friends as the three main social skills, but there are many others. Let's take a look at a couple examples of different types of social skills. Sharing. Example 1. Doug saw that Tucker forgot his lunch. In the picture on the left, you can see him sharing his sandwich with him. Example 2. Elise found out she got an A on her test. In the photo, you can see her holding up the paper to share her news with her mother. Taking turns. Example 1. On the left, you see a child showing a picture of Peter of an astronaut. Todd was talking to his friend and took turns in the conversation. Example 2. On the right, you see a girl in front of a computer. Elena took turns playing on the computer with her friend. Making friends. Example 1. On the left, you see two children swinging. Mia says hello to the girl swinging beside of her on the playground. Example 2. On the right, you see two people shaking hands. Emma introduced herself to their new neighbor and they shook hands. Playing. Example 1. On the left, you see two girls playing with their dolls. Liza and Kate made up pretend stories and acted them out with dolls. Example 2. On the right, you see a picture of a toy tractor. Cullen and Josh plowed through the dirt with their toy tractors, making engine noises. Understanding emotions. On the left, you see a photo of a woman hugging a young boy. Julio lost his favorite toy and told his mother how sad he was. On the right, you see a picture of a frightened boy. Melinda saw her little brother's face and knew he was scared. Understanding how others feel. On the left, you see the same photo of a woman hugging a young boy. Julio's mom knew he was upset because he lost his toy and gave him a hug. On the right, you see a boy sprawled out on the ground next to a basket of spilled Easter eggs. Jack saw his friend trip and fall and asked if he was okay. Following social rules. On the left, you see two young girls raising their hands. Danielle raises her hand in class when she wants to ask a question. On the right, you see a woman in a bright green sweater and denim skirt smiling. Mia doesn't like the outfit Stephanie wore today, but doesn't say anything to her. The third characteristic that is present in individuals with autism is restricted, repetitive, and stereotype patterns of behavior. But what is meant by the word restricted? Well, it means limited. Restricted patterns or limited patterns of behavior present themselves in different ways that we'll examine together. In this picture, you see a boy sleeping next to his possessions, which he's lined up on the bed next to him. Lining things up in an unusual way is an example of this restricted pattern. It could also be an intense interest in a topic or an item. In this photo, you see a teen playing the video game Minecraft on the computer. Or it could be a preoccupation with parts of objects. Pressing one button over and over on a toy like the one shown in the picture would be an example of this. Or it can be a strict adherence to routines or unusual rituals. The boy in the photo has stacked the cans from his kitchen in a tower. The next piece is repetitive patterns of behavior. So what is meant by the word repetitive? It means the student does a behavior over and over. Repetitive patterns can include the following: making noises repeatedly, saying words and phrases again and again, repeating movie lines, making body movements continually. In the photo on the right, you see a young girl watching a television show. For some students with autism, repetitive behavior may look like repeating lines from their favorite show or movie. In addition to these primary characteristics of autism, there are also other characteristics that are called secondary. These are traits that some people with autism demonstrate, but not everyone will. They can also have a significant impact on the overall functioning and learning of a student with autism. Secondary characteristics include difficulty with something we call executive functioning. Executive functioning are the processes in our brain which help us to learn. Keep in mind, this does not mean the student cannot learn, but this means the student may have challenges with those processes that help them learn and to build new skills. Executive functioning includes difficulty with attending, planning, organizing, problem solving, and impulse control. In the top photo on the right, you see a messy desk. Organization can be very difficult for a person with executive functioning difficulties. Other secondary characteristics include difficulty with imitation skills, with motor skills, and differences in the way children with autism perceive sensory information. The photo on the bottom shows a boy trying to tie his shoes. Motor skills like shoe tying, but also walking and climbing fluidly, can be challenging for some students with autism. Some individuals with autism perceive the senses in different ways than most people. For example, you may have noticed that some people with autism are very sensitive to noise, light, textures, and taste, whereas others are unaffected by this extra sensory input. In the two photos, you see a young girl with a pained expression on her face eating a vegetable, and a photo of a hand stroking a soft textured cloth. Some individuals may find it painful to experience certain tastes. Others may seek out certain sensory input like a squeeze or a certain sound or texture. As you've learned about patterns of behavior, did you think of any of the students who do any of these? Hand flapping, body rocking, spinning, head banging, or may have resistance to change, challenging behavior, and preoccupation with certain parts of objects? It is important to realize that individuals with autism do not engage in these behaviors to be obstinate or difficult. Rather, they do it because they get something out of it. It is believed these behaviors happen for a variety of reasons. Individuals who have autism spectrum disorder often indicate that one of the primary reasons why they engage in these behaviors is because these behaviors help them to stay calm and regulated. Think about tapping your foot. Sometimes when you're nervous or anxious, tapping your foot helps you regulate. So these patterns of behavior can help the individual with autism as well. Another reason is that it may help them to make sense of a chaotic world. It makes something set and something stable within what they describe as chaos and unpredictability. Other reasons might include that this behavior is fun, or perhaps students engage in it to get some sort of attention. Again, there are a variety of reasons why people on the spectrum engage in these behaviors.